mute them when you want quiet in the house. But, first of all, I'm delighted to be here. I'm sorry that the reason that Rabbi Adler is unable to give the shiur, and I certainly wish him refuah shlema, and I thank him for approving the fact that I can speak. I can't use the word replace him, but give the shiur instead of Rav Adler. I want to give a shiur on this week's Parshat Shavua Shlach. The story of the Meraglim has always intrigued me. It's intrigued me because it was a turning point in Jewish history that you really have to explain what went wrong. I mean, until this point, the Jews left, Israel left Mitzrayim. They came to the Midbar, they received the Torah. They've now been in the desert about a year, 2 months, 3 months, a few months right? During this time, received the Torah, they built the Mishkan, they consecrated it, they divided the tribes into different camps, 4 different camps. They're getting ready to enter Israel, right? They have the Chatzot in last week's Parsha that have to blow when the people have to move. You've got the cloud to lead them, the burning fire at night, everything, all systems go, as we would say. But in last week's Parsha, already things start going wrong. You have Vayibin Soar over Moshe, they're about to travel, and everything looks excited, and immediately you have Vayiyam Kimitonanim. The people start complaining. We're not even sure what they're complaining about. The Torah doesn't even tell us. Immediately after that, they start complaining about the food. I remember we used to go to yeshiva, lousy cooking and lousy this, Well, we remember the delicious meals we ate in Mitzrayim, which is such a patently absurd claim, but they make the claim, all right? They make it. You already feel something going wrong. And now you enter Shlach, which is the story of the spies. Now it begins very innocently, where Moshe sends 12 spies, a representative of each tribe, to Eretz Israel, before they enter, which is a very natural thing to do. The Mefarshim discuss whether the purpose was to assure the people the land is a good land, or for military purposes, whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. But he sends these spies. They go and they come back with this report that generates an upheaval, a revolt. People don't want to go into Eretz Israel. Why? What happened here? We've been building up for this since Yetzias Mitzrayim, since they left Mitzrayim. What went wrong? Now, usually, the usual explanations have to do with the fact that we say they were still a nation with the mentality of slaves, a slave mentality, and going into the unknown, into a desert was, of course, a frightening thing. But certainly going into war, again, to capture it's not one nation, it's 7 nations they're going to war against, 32 kings, it's a major warfare that they're heading for, was frightening. And as slaves, they couldn't handle it. And I've even heard an explanation. Some people claim they were afraid of independence. They were afraid of getting Eretz Israel, of taking responsibility. These are the various explanations that I've heard. And they're all very good, I think. But this Shabbos, I took a glance at the Netziv. I try in the afternoon to look a little bit at next week's Parsha. I find it to be an incredible Netziv. Netziv Mivaloshin, in his interpretation of the Torah, Hamek Davar. Basically, there are a number of questions you could see are in his mind. Some he points out, but they're in his mind. First of all, when the rabbis discuss this sin, they say basically it involved a kind of a heresy. I quote the Gemara in Sota, Afilu bala bayet eno yachol lotzi kelim misham. Even the owner of tools couldn't take it out of Mitzrayim. And in other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not be able to take the Canaanim out of Eretz Israel. They didn't believe in God's power all of a sudden. Heresy. God is limited. Also, there's one verse in Devarim. Remember, the story is retold by Moshe in Devarim, in his final speech. He has one sentence there that's very different from anything here, and it's a very powerful and disturbing sentence. Vayirognu ba'aleihem, and the people were rabble-rousing, whatever, in their tents. Vatomru, and they said as follows: B'sinat Hashem otanu otzianu me'eretz Mitzrayim. God took us out of Mitzrayim b'sinah, because He hates us. B'sinat Hashem otanu, because He hates us. L'teit otanu b'yad Amoril hashmidenu, to give us to Amorites to destroy us. Where did they get this idea that God hates them? Where did it come from? These were behind the Netziv, thinking. The opening verse of the rebellion in this week's parsha says as follows: Vayilonu al Moshe v'al Aaron kol bnei Yisrael. And the entire people of Israel rebelled against Moshe and Aaron. Vayomru, and they said, Vayomru alehem, kol eidah, the whole congregation said to them, Lu matnu be'eretz Mitzrayim. Oh, only if we died in Mitzrayim, or Midbar, or the desert, as the Lu matnu. If only we died here, why is God bringing us there to be destroyed in Israel? Canaan, what was Canaan then? Now, they mention in this sentence two things. Only we had the privilege of dying in Mitzrayim or in the Midbar. But they don't want to go into Israel. Now, the Netziv is very sensitive in his reading. He says he does not believe that they're just pointing to geographical locations, Egypt and the desert. He believes that there is an idea behind this. And I'll read you what the Netziv says. Netziv says as follows: The Ikar Hatluna Haya, the crux of their rebellion was as follows: Lahagid kabel Moshe v'Aaron b'li busha, to say in front of Moshe and Aaron without any sense of shame, b'sinat Hashem hador hazeh, because God hates this generation. Chafetz lahamitam be'eretz Canaan. He wants to destroy us in Mitzrayim. He brings that verse from Devarim that God hates us. Why? Now listen to these. Where did they get this idea? V'chashvu, they thought, sibata sinahu, the reason for God's hatred, why He despises them, is b'shvil shebagdu b'avodah zara b'Mitzrayim, because while they were in Mitzrayim, they worshipped idols, or alacheta egel, or maybe because of the egel, when they worshipped the golden calf. And that's what they meant. Only if we died in Mitzrayim or the Midbar, they mean for what we did in Mitzrayim and for what we did in the desert. Now, I think the Ksiv is saying something incredible here. What the people are saying is not completely crazy. Remember, at the time of the golden calf, when Moshe is up on Har Sinai, and God tells him what's going on downstairs, he doesn't know. It says, God says to Moshe, let me alone. Let me vent my anger on them. And I will wipe them out. And it will make you into a great nation. In other words, remember, in Aseret Dibrot, the second Dibra is Lo ti'elech Elohim achem al panai. You can't have any other gods. The punishment for Avodah Zarah is death. The peoples worshipped Avodah Zarah. They should be put to death. And this is even the first thought of God. Of course, Moshe then prays to God and changes this verdict. The people were afraid that what's going to happen now is this great march into Israel was for them not a great march, and we're not beginning a triumphant march. We're beginning a march towards disaster. Look what they say. Why is God bringing us to this land? Limpol b'cherev, to be destroyed by sword. Nashenu v'tapenu yelavaz. Our wives and our children will become spoiled to the enemies. Halo tov lo nishum Mitzrayim, we're better off in Mitzrayim. At least we could live and we could have our families. Question is, how did they get to this point? Why did they think, I mean, there's some basis, why did they think, where did they get this idea that God hates them? They got the idea, as the Netziv said, yes, from the fear that we're going to be punished for serving idols of Mitzrayim. Remember, they were there for hundreds of years, and they degenerated into what Chazal called the Memtet Sharei Tumah, the 49 depths of impurity, and they served the Egel. That's true. But there's a tremendous, they had this guilt feelings. And the Netziv is concerned with guilt. These guilt feelings that they have are very, very disturbing. Why? Because guilt feelings can poison you, can poison your conception of God. They conceived of God as being a vengeful God because they felt guilty. They projected on God, I'm guilty, so I'm going to be punished. Of course there's a concept of punishment in Judaism, but there's a concept of a merciful God also. And you've got to balance the two. They were incapable of reaching a normal balance because they are living with this guilt. They couldn't. What guilt does to a person is it ultimately brings about a spiritual paralysis. The person can't move on. He's afraid to make the next step ahead. You see, when you have these guilt feelings, you lose a basic, not emunah b'Hashem, not belief in God, but bitachon. What does bitachon in God mean? What do you mean I trust God? What do I trust? I don't trust that he's always going to be good to me. The world is not always good to a person. But what do I trust? I trust what David HaMelech says in Tehillim. Gam ki elech b'geitz al mavet, even though I may walk in a valley of death, lo yira ra, I won't fear evil, ki ata imadi. Trust is a feeling. I may have done things wrong, but God loves us and God is always with me. And God is waiting with outstretched arms for me. You've got to have this balance. You have to have what we say all the time in Yoshe B'Seisem Elyon. Lo ira mipachad laila mechetz yomam. I will not be afraid of fear of night, of an arrow that's shot during the day. Ki ata shemachsi, you my God, you're my protector. I know I won't be always protected. No one's always protected. But there's a certain comfort. It's like a child, a baby is comforted in a mother's or father's presence, even though the mother can't always solve the problem. But there's a very comfort, that's trust in being in a mother's presence. You know, this really explains something. It has to do with, now I want to go to tshuva, because this is right up with it. The place of guilt feelings in tshuva. How guilt is a key to the tshuva, to return to God. You've got to feel guilty, but how guilt can be destructive. There's an interesting machlokas at the end of Yuma, which my Rebbe, Rabbi Soloveitchik, quoted very. Rav Adler, I quoted Rav Soloveitchik. Now it's a legitimate lecture, isn't it? So I passed. He quoted it very often. Tan Rabbanan, Aveirot shitva lehem Yom Kippur zeh. The question is as follows. A person does vidui, confesses transgressions which he did during the year in Yom Kippur. He does tshuva. What about next Yom Kippur? Is he supposed to go back to the old ones? Or does he assume that there is forgiveness? What do we do? What do we do in such a case? So the rabbis say, Im lo shav, again, mehen v'chazav v'hoda v'helem. The one, let's say, a person doesn't go back to these averos. He did tshuva, but he's still doing confession. Then the rabbis compare it to kekelev shav kio, like a dog that returns to his vomit. In other words, you got it out of your system. You did tshuva. Let it out there. On the second Yom Kippur, don't keep on repeating the same one. What they really are saying is, you've got to go on spiritually. You can't be stuck. We all make mistakes in life. Don't stay where you are. Go on from there. You have to trust that we have a merciful God. This is our basic belief. And this is what we pray on Yom Kippur. At the end of each davening, Melech mochel v'solech v'lavonotenu v'anot amo Beit Yisrael. King who forgives our transgressions and the transgressions of all Israel. Listen to the continuation. Umavir ashmotenu b'chol shana v'shana. And I would translate this, and who wipes away our guilt each year. You have to get rid of that guilt. Of course, it's only if you do tshuva. But if you do tshuva, then you go on in life. Even with the Meraglim, the Netziv's explanation helps us to understand other things in Gemara. There's a Rabbi Yochanan that's very strange in Gemara. It's also in Sota there. Rabbi Yochanan says, Makash Yitzia Lebiya, that the Meraglim were the same when they returned as when they left. What do you say, yeah? Ma biya beitzara, afalicha beitzara. Just as they returned with evil intent, so they left with evil intent. I want to ask you something. They left with evil intent? Do you really think that Moshe Rabbeinu was so incompetent that he chose 10 people that didn't believe in it? That were incompetent, that were shoyim, they were out to undermine everything? That can't be it. What it means is because originally when they left, since they had these guilt feelings, they were carrying with them something evil to a person, something that's wrong on the spiritual structure of a person. A person has to be free of guilt at a certain point. They were not free of it. And that's why their going out was ra, eitzara. Anyone who understood where they were and had a deep psychological understanding, or as if each of them would have been put on a couch, and each psychiatrist can examine each one, and you would discover how they had these guilt feelings, you would understand how they could possibly lead to a situation where what they would see is negative, rather than see positive, rather than looking forward, rather than believing, Lo yirara ki ata imadi, I will not be fear anything because you are with me, but they got this concept of God hates us, God detests us. The one who says this about tshuva, this is an idea which actually is a very central idea of Hasidus. In Litvish tshuva, most of the tshuva that I heard from the Rav always spoke about God being compassionate. But he always spoke about the need that you had to feel guilty and do that tshuva and the rigorous demands of tshuva. The Hasidic masters spoke about the need to go on, to get it off your back and go ahead. The Chidush HaOrim, which is original Gera Rebbe, writes as follows. He's dealing with the explaining the pasuk Sur Meira Vasei Tov. The simple meaning is leave, turn away from evil and do good. First you got to turn away from evil and then do good. And a person in education, first you train a person to be disciplined, not to do evil, and then to do good. He says, no, it means something else. Oh, imadam kilkel, if a person transgresses chas v'shalom, the davar chamor, something serious, and he's always busy. His soul is dealing with this turning away from the evil. How can he correct this evil? He's living with this guilt. He's thinking of his failure all along. His thinking is there. He says a person's thinking has to be positive. Surmira, get this guilt out of your system. Do tshuva, get it out, and go on with life. That's what you say. And this is what the Netziv says was the problem of the Meraglim. The people left Egypt. They carried with them a bag of guilt that in Egypt they didn't behave the way they're supposed to. It's true they were slaves, but they were caught up in the culture of Egypt and the avodah zarah of Egypt, the idol worship, and they felt guilty about it. Because in many ways, what they were doing here, they were being unfair. They were being bogeyed. That's the word for bogeyed in English now. Traitors. They were traitors to their tradition. In the Egel, they received the Torah just how long? 40 days later, they were again traitors. They were carrying these bags of guilt, and what he's saying, you have to be surmeira. Get it out of your system. Do tshuva because you got to go on in life. Guilt feelings pull you down all life. Guilt is important. It's important to build you spiritually. It's critical to build you spiritually, but it's critical at some point to move on. And therefore, this is the Netziv's very novel way of explaining what went wrong with the spies. What wrong with the spies is they had a concept of a God who was vengeful, who would punish them. They have had of crime and punishment, which there is a basis in which we have to believe in. This is one of the bases of our beliefs. But he says, but they were unable at one point to get it off their backs and go on positively. And when you have guilt, what you see is black. When you get rid of guilt, suddenly life becomes bright again. And I think it's something that personally we could all learn from the story of the Meraglim according to Netziv. Thank you. That's the shiur that I have to give today. Questions? I don't know how you handle chats. I've never done this. Chats, if anyone has questions.
I'll open it up. So if I'll take people off the...
Does the rabbi want to add anything? Is he up to it? No.
רגע,
Yeah.
קודם כל הרב דני, אני שומע אותך.
כן,
מהפרוס.
שומע אותך.
אני באמת מודה לך על זה שנכנסת לתת את השיעור ממש בדקה. אני מדבר משערי צדק, אני לפרשת